My hope with this section of the website is to encourage you to draw on a piece of local history to engage your students with the reality of mass racial violence in the United States. In recent years, the Tulsa Race Massacre has been a major topic of conversation, and there are now plenty of resources online for how to bring that piece of difficult history into your classroom. The sad truth is that the list of race riots, massacres, and mob violence across the United States is extremely long, and it is very likely that you can find an example from a city near you. Engaging with local history can make the events more real to your students. They can picture exactly where they happened, relate to the people who lived through it, and they can't distance themselves from it as something that could never happen here. Particularly in the northern half of the United States, we imagine that mass racial violence only occurred in the South, but the reality is that it happened everywhere in the country. In this section, I provide two sample lessons from two places that I have lived for an extended period of time, Chicago and Philadelphia. They can absolutely be used by teachers not in or near either of those cities, but I hope they serve as inspiration for you to design a lesson around your city, if you don't happen to be teaching in the city of broad shoulders or brotherly love. Both lessons draw on local newspapers' contemporaneous accounts of the event, highlight a piece of the way the event is remembered in modern day, and use Google Maps Street View to explore the area the violence occurred. A field trip to the location would be even better, but that's not always possible. The context of your local racial violence will be unique and worth diving into to provide your students with the appropriate background knowledge. That being said, many of them share common threads important to consider. Look into demographic changes in your city around the time of the violence. Often you'll find violence tied to increases in the Black population of the city, sometimes tied to the Great Migration or other larger trends. Economic conflicts or changes can also set the stage for violence. It is always worth investigating the outcomes of the violence. Were people arrested, charged, ignored? How does structural racism play into the response to the violence? I provide a link to a Wikipedia list of racial violence in the United States to skim for pieces of local history. If you find one you're interested in teaching, see if you can find an old newspaper clipping about the story, a more recent analysis of the history, and see if there are any monuments or plaques memorializing the event. Modifying or creating a memorial or plaque is a great option for a final activity for one of these lessons. It allows the students to imagine a real change to their community and think about the way we tell and remember history. Please feel free to use these lessons below regardless of where you live, but I do encourage you to try out a piece of your own local history if you have the time.